Hello everybody, here we are today talking about how the Tampa Bay Lightning are heating up at the right time and seeing how far they could go this season. But before we get started with it, please make sure to subscribe if you're new to me or hockey, whatever the case may be. Being said, let's get on into it. So since winning the Stanley Cup in back-to-back years, there's honestly been a lot of painful moments for the Bolts as they ended up losing in the 2022 Stanley Cup final. There were some painful losses there. They ended up seeing their three-peat hopes just kind of pulverized. And then following that, they ended up losing to the Toronto Maple Leafs in the next season. And the Leafs are a team that just never wins in the first round. So this was kind of turned into a meme as the Matthews gang can finally say that they advanced on to the second round. And the Bolts had to kind of be attached to that history. And then what we saw last year was them seeing their in-state rivals, their little brothers, beat them and then go on to win a championship after they had just recently won a couple of their own. So had to be painful with the offseason too, seeing Steven Stamkos, one of the biggest and most influential players in their franchise's history, walk away. So I would say that for a lot of Bolts fans, they were wondering what's going wrong in such a short fashion and wondering why there's even reason to be optimistic. And I think for a lot of people, they may argue there really isn't a lot of reason, but I can say that John Cooper's side is definitely looking to make their first deep run since 2022 in the playoffs. And at points, it hasn't looked very, very good for them. And then over the past 20 games, they were really able to correct that in a lot of ways. They had a 4-game losing streak, and then since then, over their following 20, they have gone 13-5-2 and have the 4th best points percentage in that time. Really great stuff there to see from them. They do have a couple of back-to-back losses, but they responded well and have currently won 6 in a row and are sitting pretty in the standings at a stage where I didn't exactly know if it was going to go one way or the other, down one path or another for Tampa Bay. But this is looking really good, as well as a resurgence of Andrei Vasilevskiy, especially over these past 20 games. Now, Andrei is a goalie that's been very good for a long time, and he had a down year last year. Had surgery before the season, played in a year that was a letdown again for the Bolts, and his numbers didn't look great. So you kind of wondered, is this going to be something where age, the fact that he got in a big extension and a bigger injury that he had to deal with, kind of indicating that the future might not be so bright for him? Judging from what we've seen this year, the answer to that is no. He already posts good overall numbers, but over these past 20 games that the Lightning have played in, he's played in 16 and had really, really good numbers. A 2.06 goals against average and a .933 save percentage should tell you all you need to know, as well as him going 11-3-2 over the time is great. And I think it's more comforting for Tampa Bay fans saying maybe we could get more of this in the future where our window gets kind of extended by Vasi being the guy that we paid him to be with this big money deal. Now, is Vasi going to go out there and win the Vezina this year? I don't think so. Looking again, talking about Connor Hellebuyck, I feel like all we do is talk about Connor Hellebuyck on this channel. He'll probably win the Vezina yet again. His numbers are just so good. The wins, goals against average. Winnipeg looking so dominant this year. I can't really see anybody challenging him, but I think it would be a huge deal for Vasi to be a finalist if he can get there. He could have the wins. He could have, again, some of those stronger numbers. And it's really just all about getting him hot for the playoffs, which is where you can see Vasi shine before for a team that has got a couple of banners up there that aren't too old. But I also think that aside from just 20 games, there have been other good signs for this team. Looking at a guy like Brendan Hagel, he was a player that they really wanted, and it's actually been a little bit longer than I realized that he got traded over from Chicago and was one of those younger guys that they were kind of all in trying to win right now. But I think it did set themselves up well for the future, having a younger player that could be such an impactful guy for them. And this year it looks like he's having a career year. And this is massive because you have him and guys like Braden Point who could, again, probably be those go-to guys in the future, but still give you a little bit more time to have kind of a good run with this group that they've got. Hagel is a player that I'm really hoping can, again, just keep rising, keep growing, and keep having more and more career years, and be one of the faces for Tampa Bay in the coming years, regardless of how things going to play out, I think this season especially. But it's not just some of those younger guys. You're seeing other guys that have been brought back, and Ryan McDonagh. McDonagh is a player that was part of those Stanley Cup victories for the Bolts and ended up having a short stint in Nashville, came back and is actually having really, really good numbers. So that is great. Him and Chernak, that pairing has been their best pairing in terms of expected goals and then actual goals. So good results expected, and then when they go off the ice, they back it up and have the best defensive numbers. Really what you'd like to see is, again, having a pairing that's got some experience in big moments, like the playoffs, especially something like the Stanley Cup final and whatnot, to have them go out there and dominate and shut down some of those stars. I don't exactly know how much of an impact McDonagh will have for the course of the playoffs, but But I'm going to be honest, I think it could actually be a huge deal for them, and it would be kind of an underrated reacquisition, a pickup, if you will, as I know a lot of the focus is always focused on Victor Hedman, but I did want to give a shout out to McDonough for an older player that is more of that traditional defensive defenseman, but he is really going to be one of those X factors, I think, for the Bolts if they want to go on a run. So as you can see, it's been guys with them for their whole career, younger guys that they wanted to get when they were in their win now mode, and older guys that they said, come on down and see if you want to be part of this team yet again, that have really propelled this team forward. But ultimately, it is again about the playoffs. It's about winning when it matters most for this team, and I don't think that's really a secret. The Jake Guentzel signing was huge there. They want to be one of those teams that is represented on the final stage, and one of the things that I kind of wanted to point out is the fact that they are flying under the radar, I think in part lately because of the success that they've had that's been very recent, but they're fourth in the Eastern Conference. They are ninth in overall league standings, and I got to be honest, with the way things are going, I really do think that they could get further up in the league overall standings. I'm not sure how things will play out East, but it would be, I think, a good achievement for this team if they ended up going out there and winning the Atlantic Division, because especially someone like myself, I said it was a two-horse race, Toronto and Florida, but maybe it's actually Tampa Bay, and I think we'd all be a little bit surprised. But in a way, they kind of give me those Boston Bruins vibes from a few years ago, a team that maybe a little bit older, capable of winning their division, that is going to have a good year, that is probably going to beat up on a team in the first round that isn't as good as them, depending on how things kind of shake out in the standings. But then once they get to the second round and they face a more top-tier side, they aren't able to get the job done. So while we do want to give them all the praise, John Cooper being a successful head coach, seeing guys like Fassi come back from what was a really, really bad year for him, and then some of these other guys stepping up, or some of these other guys giving you a lot more return than maybe you expected, we do also have to snap back into reality here that if the Bolts ended up losing in the first round again, you would say that this team is probably stuck, even though they've made a lot of moves and decisions to try to keep this spot or this side in a good spot. And I don't know what happens if they get knocked out in the first round, but I really am hoping, honestly, that they get back and go on a run. As much as I know Tampa Bay was villainized when they were the dominant team out east, I think it's odd not having them be kind of in the mix. And I know that they aren't liked like some other teams, but I think that they aren't as hated as a team like the Bruins, that are old, that have this massive fan base that can be very vocal. And so that's kind of why I'm hoping maybe more of the return, if you will, in the hockey world, where people would say, oh, we actually be okay if the Bolts went on a run. Anything to stop this team. And I think, unfortunately, for a lot of people, it would probably be Toronto that would be that team that they wouldn't want to go see on a run. I think some people are like, oh, let them win a cup just to get it over with. But I think a lot of people are more like, please don't let them do it. Anybody but them. We will let, Chicago win a cup before that case, even though they had that success period in the 2010s. Mind you, Chicago is nowhere near the playoffs. But yes, kind of circling back to the Bolts, I think it is a big year. It is very good to see these results as of late, as the season winds down and they get closer and closer to the playoffs. But make no mistake, this team is trying to still probably win a cup. Whether or not that's realistic, I can't say. In my opinion, I don't think it's super realistic, but let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Also, please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe. Have a great night. And Eagle of Valk, you alright? Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.